So I know people are going to get mad about this video. We're going to get a ton of comments. It's like, rah. It's the off season, man. Let's explore the space. And you know what? Some of these may not be as far-fetched as you would think. So we're going to go through with a bunch of hypothetical Vikings trades. And sure, I mean, maybe some of them are sort of out there, but maybe some of them aren't. And also, have fun. I mean, literally, how people get so worked up about grown men in like tight-fitting clothes and some pads chasing an inflated pigskin bladder. It's crazy, man. It's sports ball. Let's have some fun with it. So let's play the game. Let's play it. So yeah or nah on some hypothetical Vikings trades. First off, out of the gate, Danielle Hunter to the Texans for number 12 overall. So this isn't insane. So, okay, maybe it's a little insane. So the Texans have the number 2 overall pick. They got the 12 from the Browns in the Deshaun Watson trade. And, Danielle is from Katy, Texas, so suburb of Houston. And D'Amico Ryans, of course, he knows that he needs an elite edge rusher to work his defense. He had Bosa in San Francisco. He could potentially pick up Danielle, who's going to turn 29 in October, still firmly in his prime, for a draft pick where you potentially are going to be just reaching for an edge rusher that you hope is a fraction of the player that Danielle Hunter is. So if it must be tonight, we must make a deal, right? So the Vikings, Quasey, calling up, Nick Caserio, what up? Can we get 12? I mean, it'd be more interesting if the Texans offer the number 2 pick in the second round. So, but I think that the Vikings, I think they should retain Danielle. I am very much on team extend Danielle and take care of him, keep him in purple a long time. But I do understand if the Vikings would move on because Quasey is going to look at everything, and Danielle would be the Vikings' most promising trade chip this offseason outside of Kirk Cousins. So if the offer is too good, if the Texans are fully all in, if D'Amico Ryans looks at the edge rushers in this class, like I'd rather have a sure thing and try and win out the gate with Danielle. We do have the cap space. We can pay him. They'd have to consider it because the Vikings would then have 12 as well as 23 have a chance to really improve the squad, especially on the defensive side of the ball, especially get into a better tier of cornerbacks. Next up, trade offer number 2. Dalvin to the Dolphins for a 6th rounder. Oh, wait, we're removing all the suspense. Dalvin to the Dolphins for a 6th rounder. Yeah, so I think 100% the Vikings are likely going to cut Dalvin this offseason. He's due $10.4 million base salary next year. None of it is guaranteed. And Dalvin is going to be 29, 28. So I don't think that there's going to be a lot of teams champing at the bit to trade for Dalvin and his contract at his age. But if you can get anything for him, it would make sense. In Miami, they're bereft of running back talent at the moment in time. He would do great in Mike McDaniel's scheme. A lot of outside zone, very much shades of the Shanahan tree, so Dalvin would fit right in. I think that he still has some good football left in him. Also, going to Miami, going back home, he put on a show down at Hard Rock Stadium when the Vikings played the Dolphins this year, had a 53-yard touchdown run, so being able to round out his career in front of the home fans, in front of his friends and family, it would be pretty good. And the Vikings getting some day 3 capital where they're definitely in need of any sort of draft capital in 2023 would make some sense. Trade number 3, hypothetical. Jefferson to anyone for 3 firsts. So that's going to be a nah. And I understand 3 first-round picks, like that's quarterback territory. But Justin Jefferson is the best wide receiver in the National Football League. He's going to be the best receiver in the league for a number of years. And I know what you're saying. It's like, hey, 3 first-round picks, the Vikings can rebuild this team. But you're going to be searching for anyone who's as good as Jefferson, and there's no guarantee. I mean, all these draft picks are lotto tickets. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Most of the time you lose. And Jefferson is a sure thing, so extend him, pay that man his money, take care of him. I'm never going to give him up, never going to let him down. And hell, you could change it. Hell, let's change it. So on draft day, you're able to unlock 4 first-round picks. So say on draft day, someone offers you 4 first-round picks, and say that this year's is pretty high. I'm still going to say no. Like, unless you're guaranteed to turn a number of those picks into your future franchise quarterback, then you would consider it. But also, nah, ain't going to do it, man. Next up, speaking of quarterback, number 4, Kirk to the Niners for 4/3 and Trey Lance and an additional starter. So, Brock Purdy potentially needing surgery. Maybe he could miss part or all of the 2023 season. Trey Lance, question mark. Jimmy G, question mark. And you saw with the Niners, I mean, they're frustrated. They didn't have a quarterback, and they may not have a quarterback, but if you put Kirk Cousins on that team, all of a sudden they're contenders. Now, if the Vikings are going to enrich an NFC competitor, it's going to cost you, man. So the Niners have already given up a bunch of picks for Trey Lance. They gave up a bunch of picks for Christian McCaffrey, but they do have a ton of compensatory picks. They have 3 third-rounders. So I'm going to need at least 4 third-rounders or 4 or 3/3, a future second, or something like that. Trey Lance as a potential future franchise quarterback of the Vikings. I'm also going to sign a bridge quarterback, maybe bring back Teddy, or Jabroni Brisket, don't really know, and a starter. Like, I want Brandon Ayuk. I want Dre Greenlaw. I want Hufanga. I want something. And hey, you don't get what you don't ask for. And I understand that it's sort of pie in the sky, but who has the leverage in this spot? I mean, so Brock Purdy is hurt. Tom Brady is retired, allegedly. And if Aaron Rodgers doesn't want to get traded to the Niners, which they don't have any draft picks to trade anyway, this is the other option. And I do think that if you put Kirk on the Niners, they can certainly win a Super Bowl with that defense, with those weapons on offense, with that offensive line. So yeah, that's a YAH for me. So you can start over. You have a ton of draft picks in the mid rounds. You get Trey Lance, who was a number 3 overall pick for a reason. But yes, I understand that the Niners are giving up on him, but it's some very interesting circumstances, and they're in win now mode. And if you can peel off a starter, especially a defensive starter, it gets interesting, man. Hypothetical trade number 5. Danielle to New England for Michael Onwenu. So Onwenu came in as a 6th-round pick in 2020 out of Michigan, very unheralded, but turned into one of the best offensive linemen and one of the more consistent offensive linemen in the league. And they put him all over the place, at tackle, at guard, whatever. And I would say yes to this. I would say absolutely YAH to this, where Danielle, I mean, if the Vikings are going to stick with the 3-4, even though I understand that the Patriots run a 3-4 or a multiple scheme with Belichick, but if the Vikings are hell-bent on sticking with the 3-4, I don't want Danielle playing out of position. I don't think he wants to play out of position either. So potentially moving him and picking up Onwenu, who, yes, is going to be in a contract year, and yes, you're going to have to pay him sooner rather than later. You get a 350-pound freaking guard, 6'4", 350 if he's announced, and has proven that he is an absolute stud in this league, has versatility, and you plop him in one of the guard spots, left or right guard, do not really care. Just play him, start him, and dominate up front. So that's a surefire YAH for me. Next up, trade number 6. Za'Darius Smith for a 3rd-rounder. Now, this is interesting because Za'Darius is potentially a cut candidate because the Vikings could save around $12.3 million in space by moving on from him. Yes, he signed a 3-year deal, but really, like most deals, all the meat is in the first season. So, I mean, Za'Darius was great in the first half of the season, but especially if the Vikings revert back to the 4-3, Za'Darius is going to be better in a 3-4. So he could have some interest because even though banged up his knee, certainly wasn't the same player in the second half of the season, there still could be some demand for Za'Darius, and he is on a relatively team-friendly contract, averaging around $14 million per season. So if a team comes offering a 3rd-rounder, I would say, yeah, I would certainly consider moving Za'Darius Smith, especially since he's a guy that you may cut anyway. Next up, trade number 7. So Cameron Dantzler for a 3rd-rounder. Now, there had already been some rumors and innuendo that Dantzler in year 2 may have been traded to the Niners. So, of course, Kwesi and John Lynch, they go way back. But Dantzler, remember, Dantzler was a cornerback that Kwesi inherited. He re-signed Patrick Peterson. He drafted Andrew Booth Jr. He unearthed Duke Shelley. He drafted Caleb Evans. He inherited Cameron Dantzler, who was a 3rd-round pick in 2020. Now, Dantzler has shown flashes, yes, but also after he came back from injury, Duke Shelley retained the job, and Dantzler, he's a little bit hot and cold right now. So if a team comes offering a mid-round pick, a 3rd or 4th rounder, especially in this class where it's a very good cornerback class, but some team sees Dantzler as having that potential and the whole mama, I can change him, I mean, yeah, they certainly should and could consider it, especially if Kwesi does believe in Booth, if he can stay healthy, and in Evans, if he can stay healthy, as well as if they bring back Duke Shelley. I think that does make Dantzler expendable. Next up, hypothetical trade number 8. Harrison Smith for a 4th-rounder. Now, this one hurts, but Harrison is getting up there in age. Yes, the contract is well, at the time, he was the highest paid safety in NFL history. And now the Vikings could certainly use some of that cap savings. So would you move on? So Kwesi reworked the deal with Harrison, but he didn't extend him. He didn't draft him. There's no ties there. And Harrison, frankly, having a career renaissance season with 5 interceptions, even though he wasn't allowed to do Harrison Smith type things down the box like with Zimmer under Donatell, I think his trade value's never been higher, even given his age, even given his contract. So a safety-needy team that wants some veteran leadership on the back end could be kind of interesting, but I'm going to say nah. Like, I'm going to try and ride it out with Harrison Smith. Like, basically drop him in the box, make him a de facto linebacker, and just let him go from there. Because I still think that he has some good football left in him. Maybe we rework that contract. Maybe we have a pay cut in there. But for a 4th rounder, nah, not at this point. Hypothetical trade number 9. Darrisaw for Payne. Let's get nuts. So Darrisaw is from the DMV area, went to Virginia Tech, so there would be another bit of a homecoming, just like Dalvin to Miami and Danielle to Houston. But Payne. So now the commies can tag and trade Payne, which I think is a possibility, or they could just tag him and just have him, which is fantastic. But Payne, 11.5 sacks this year, really blew up that disruptive inside force, and you saw what happened with Aaron Donald. You saw what happened with Chris Jones in the playoffs this year. Well, Aaron Donald last year, not so much this year, even though he's still a Pro Bowler. But Payne is that guy, and he's going to get paid in free agency. I know that he's a favorite target of Bears fans, where they have all the cap in the world. They can certainly swing after Payne, but I ain't doing it, man. I am not doing this. Absolutely not. Wait, hold on. Is there anything more? Hell nah. There you go. So Darrisaw is already becoming one of the best left tackles in the game. Payne, you would swap him out for Darrisaw, and you'd have to pay Payne, where you could potentially just sign him in free agency if he hits the market. No. So I ain't doing that. I love me some Payne. I want the Vikings to make a serious push for him, but I am not trading potentially the next Trent Williams for the right to sign Payne. It's like having a PSL for season tickets. Like, oh, you have to pay for the right to buy your tickets. It's ridiculous, man. So absolutely not. In fact, I hate that one. Maybe we should redo it. Doesn't matter. Lastly, hypothetical trade number 10. Thielen to the Packers for a first-round pick. So now, obviously, this is not going to happen, but I wanted to understand like where my pain point is. Where if the Packers offer you a 7th-round pick for Thielen, you're going to say no. If the Packers offer you 3 first-round picks for Thielen, you're going to say yes. Now, obviously, they're not going to do that, but where is the equilibrium? Like, we have already established that you can do business, but what is the price? So this one would hurt me spiritually. And even though, yeah, people made a lot of Thielen and Rodgers having a good chuckle after the game, after the alleged Packers win against the Vikings at Lambeau, I can't do it. I mean, he's the pride of Detroit Lakes. He grew up a Vikings fan. He probably hates the Packers. Hopefully he still does. Mankato State University Community College. Nailed it. He's Mr. Minnesota. He can't do it. But hypothetically, if Gutekunst is just like, hey, first-round pick. Oh, man. Nah, I still can't do it. I mean, Kwesi would do it because Kwesi don't give a fudge, and analytics say yes, do it. But first off, they wouldn't offer it. Number 2, I couldn't do that because Thielen may not care, because Thielen may be a little bit bitter at the team right now because of his role in the offense, as well as him potentially being cut or traded this offseason. But he could certainly play the victim here, where if say this actually does happen, again, crazy town, right? But Kwesi accepts the deal because he's into analytics, and the chart says this makes sense. But Thielen could be like, how could they? How could my home state team trade me to my most hated rival? Oh, I'd rather retire. Nah, just kidding. I'll play it out. I'll catch this paycheck. I'll catch balls from Jordan Love. I don't care. But he certainly could do that. So I don't think that the Vikings would even entertain that. So, I mean, that's a nah. But, again, some of these are completely bat bleep insane, but some of them make you think. Like the Danielle for Nwenu. Za'Darius for a 3rd rounder. Danielle to the Texans. Maybe not for 12. Maybe it's for 34. Don't really know. But Kirk for Kirk to the Niners. But anyways, let us know your thoughts. Which trades are YAH? Which trades are nah? Let us know in the comments section below. Also, toss in a couple hypothetical ones for funsies. I mean, because it's Fun Thursday. Why the hell not? Anyways, let us know in the comments section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. Want to support the work? Put a little something in the Venmo. But till next time, Skol, production value.